Welcome to the Now Seated Podcast, a show where we talk about the stuff we're watching and whether you should be seated or not. I'm Christian. I'm doing this review today on The Boys. Doing this one solo because my girlfriend has not watched the season finale, or the series finale, I should say, of The Boys with me. And she doesn't really have much of an interest in The Boys. So yeah, I'll be tackling this review by myself today. Wanted to put this out now since, again, the series has ended and I have a lot of thoughts. I know the rest of the internet seems to have a lot of thoughts as well. Some mixed, some pretty negative. For me, I think overall this season, this last fifth season of The Boys is for me, it's a season that really truly lacked anything interesting, and was kind of displaying all of the worst qualities that the writer Eric Kripke had to show. It just wasn't good, you know. And it's unfortunate because it's a show that really had, I would say, quite a generational run, and not just because it was a superhero show per se, right? But one, it came at a time where the superhero genre was at its peak, you know, or kind of leveling off from its peak, and was essentially more or less a subtle deconstruction of it in some ways. And more importantly, what the show did for Amazon Prime, right? Because before The Boys, really what show was there to talk about on Amazon Prime that we were all kind of talking about, essentially kind of a water cooler kind of talk, you know? I don't really remember a show that Amazon Prime had before The Boys that was this kind of influential or widespread as far as attention and eyes on it, right? And it was their first foray into superhero content, as we've known it, right? During a time where, you know, superhero content was pretty much at its peak, right? I think the show started like 2017, 2018, right? So it's been a interesting ride with the show altogether, but unfortunately for me, this fifth and final season just really didn't do it. I'm gonna go into some points here, and as always, any thoughts, comments, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear people's reactions on this and at least my thoughts, and kind of generate a bit of a discussion here about the season again, because I have found that as I scroll through online to different reviews, some people have been negative, but other have been kind of positive or just kind of middle of the road. So I'd love to know what it is that other people are seeing that I'm not, you know, because maybe there is something to appreciate about the season. I just don't feel like there is. I just found the season to be abysmal. And for me, my first thought here is that the season felt small, you know? And by that, I mean the locations and set pieces that the show had to offer, just small, you know? From the first season where Homelander was destroying an airplane midair full of people, and that was a whole thing, and you saw him lasering a full, you know, commercial jet, to, I don't know, they're fighting in a forest, and the next episode, now they're fighting in another forest, and now they're fighting in an empty warehouse, and now they're in, you know, Gustavo Fring's underground you know, lair, or, you know, they're in an influencer's house. You know, they're running through a neighborhood. Like, it just felt small and really contained, whereas previous seasons have given us so much room to breathe as far as like set pieces and action pieces and locations. You know, the only true kind of you know, out there scene we get, I think, is in the first episode of season 5, where Homelander is chasing A-Train at like supersonic speeds, you know. And that was pretty much it. You know, we don't really see Homelander fly too much, do anything really. Homelander just kind of walks around this season, You know, Soldier Boy just kind of walks around this season. Every time there's some kind of interaction with them or some other character, it's in a room and in another room and here, and it just felt small for a show that has worked up, or it's worked up to being such a grand show. You know, because we've seen them tackle things internationally, or you know, whatever the case is. And this season just felt like they kind of forgot like how big they can go, or maybe it's just an issue of budget. Maybe they just, realize, oh, we're spending too much money. We got to cut down on some of these things, which, you know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But in any case, I think it was worse off for the show overall, because I feel like it came through a lot where it's just like, okay, now they're in yet another room, another back room. You know, how many times have we seen the boys' crew go from one location to another, and now they're in another location, and it's just nothing really interesting. There was nothing really interesting to look at in the background as these characters were doing very uninteresting, abysmal things. I want to segue into that, into the action or lack thereof, right? This season had no action, you know, and we can debate that all day long, but for me, from what I saw for 8 hours of show, and everything was just talking, and then it was a little bit of some action here, a little bit of action there, or you know, maybe Kimiko's doing something, and then it was over before you knew it. You know, the action that really got this season was in that first episode where they're breaking the characters out of the internment camp, you know, the Homelander reforming camp, whatever it is, you know, where they're like busting them out from underground and whatever the case is, and that's really it. You know, nothing else really happens besides a bunch of running around. Even in the second or third episode where they have to like go into the influencer's house, and have to test out their soup killing virus on these like superhero influencers. It wasn't interesting, you know? Like they had a character who was made out of complete molten rock and like ejaculated lava, I guess, was his whole stick. And, you know, I feel like we were gypped. It was a way to cop out because that character, the rock person, was literally a mound of rocks, you know? And I think they thought they were being clever with the whole thing about, well, this guy, since he ejaculates lava, and he's constantly jerking off, he's covered in his own like lava ejaculate, which is like, okay, I guess that's funny, but I would have loved to have seen a rock-like character walking around, and I think the reason we didn't get that is because they're just. I'm guessing there just wasn't enough budget to go around, or they spent the rest of the majority of the budget on that chase sequence with A-Train. Who knows? It's just to say that as far as the action in this season for this season goes, it's very bland, it's very boring, and it's very samesies, you know? And it's unfortunate because this was, again, their final season, their chance to really do some crazy stuff and really show off, but they didn't. Something even worse that the show does, for me, is the awful writing and dialogue that the show that this season in particular really has. From, again, this is a show that I think had really good writing, you know, or at least like generally very decent writing for 3-4 seasons. I'll even give season 4 a pass, but this season just felt annoying and tiresome to listen to and watch as far as the writing and dialogue between characters goes. Kimiko, I want to start off with Kimiko in particular because it's the one that most annoys me watching this season. Kimiko's a character, for those of you who may not know, Kimiko's a character who, when she's discovered or rescued, she's she's mute. She can talk, but she doesn't. So effectively, she's mute. And so she speaks in a sort of created sign language with Frenchie, right? And that's how she communicates, I think, for pretty much up until this season. I don't think she starts talking till this season, if I'm not mistaken, till season 5. I might have to double check on that, but they allowed her to speak in this season. And you would think that, wow, great, like some character development. She finally has an arc. Like she admitted her feelings to Frenchie, and now because of that, because of how she's opened up and been able to kind of heal her inner traumas, being with the boys and and doing all these adventures with the boys, she has now finally been able to regain the ability to speak. And that's not it at all. She just learns how to speak, and then what she does with her ability to speak is honestly just stupid. It's annoying. It's ridiculous. Every time she makes some kind of commentary or talks about, you know, something related to whatever scene they're doing, it has to do with some obscene porn reference, like, oh, this is like some double penetration shit, or yeah, this is like a, you know, a double dicking down, and this, and it's like, dude, like it's funny the first time, you know, it's because, again, there's a lot of this show, and not just this season, but in its entirety, The Boys has been able to effectively, I think, use slapstick and kind of absurd humor to its advantage, and it's worked out pretty well thus far. It's not till this season where we get Kimiko making these stupid references and these stupid commentaries, you know, and again, they're all porn related, and it's just like it feels like some edgelord, you know, some huge edgelord neckbeard is writing this dialogue for her in some back room, thinking, oh, this is hilarious, this is really gonna get the crowd going, and it just comes off as awkward and weird, and just it's like chalkboard having to listen to her speak sometimes in this, you know, especially in the last episode, you know, after they have accomplished their goal of defeating Homelander, and you're like, great, fantastic, we finally beat Homelander, and what does she end up doing if not for getting a cigar from Mother's Milk? And her line is, this cigar tastes like dirty dick. Yeah, dirty dick. And it's like, dude, like, we're not past this. Like, and the characters like barely make an attempt to tell her to not do that. I think it happens once, and then it's never touched on again. And the other characters just let her continue talking like that. And again, up until the very end, dude, where it's, oh, this tastes like dirty dick. Like, it's not funny. It's not funny. It's awkward. And for a show where I'm supposed to be emotionally invested in, and the characters finally accomplishing their goal, it's just such a mood and vibe kill to hear her say stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying that the show can't do edgy things, because it has done them, and it has done them, for my taste, very effectively, right? The miniature guy going inside the other guy's penis hole in, like, what, season 3, and then he expands because he sneezes. Hilarious, right? Those scenes were kind of you know, not as prevalent throughout the show. It was kind of like, I feel like for the first 3 or 4 seasons, you kind of knew that the writers in the show were going to do some kind of really obscene, ridiculous kind of scene, such as miniature man goes inside penis and sneezes and it expands. And it's like, okay, great, cool. But the show, I felt like in previous seasons, didn't really hit you over the head with it. Whereas this season, it's like it had nothing else to do but to hit you over the head with these obscene, stupid, ridiculous, pornographic, dialogue and scenes and nonsense. And it's like, dude, and the worst part is that it came from Kimiko, a character who for 4 seasons hadn't spoken a word, you know, because of her trauma. And then that trauma is kind of forgotten about entirely in this season. I think it's just an awful character turn for her character. Again, this being the final season. Another character who I really just didn't like this season was Butcher. Butcher to me was the character. I don't care about Huey, and I like Huey as a character, and I like Jack Quaid, who plays Huey. I don't necessarily have an issue with him. Not that I and again, I understand that like he truly is the main character of The Boys, as it were. But for me, the character of the show, the highlight, is Butcher. Through and through, it is Butcher. Karl Urban always does a fantastic job portraying Butcher. I've never really had an issue, or really a complaint about him up until this season. And it's a real shame. I think he plays Butcher. I don't know if it's his acting or the writing or a combination of both, but the end result, that from what I watched for 5 weeks on my TV, I think Butcher comes off as a parody of himself. And that's just what it is. Karl Urban, for me, his performance of Butcher comes off as a parody of what he thinks Butcher is, not how he has played him for 4 seasons so far, and even his dialogue that for me used to be very witty, on the nose, it just comes off as debilitating and I love to use that word again, abysmal. Like, it really is. Like, everything he says, I'm just like, I don't care, and again, he's not playing him in any kind of inspired way. He doesn't play him like it's the final season of this show, and I think that more so has to do with the fact that the writing and plotting of this season also apparently didn't know that it was its last season. And I think that's the major fracture point for me for season 5 of The Boys. This season doesn't know that it's its last season. Some interviews that Eric Kripke had done in between the show airing, where he talked about like, oh, well, what did people expect? What did people expect? Is this set? And it's like, no, dude, I think the criticism that people have been lobbing against, lobbing at The Boys, this season 5 finale, is completely valid. 6 of these 8 episodes are completely filler. They just are, and there is no way to really put that in any other kind of way. They knew where they wanted to get to, which was Butcher fighting Homelander, and Homelander had to lose some way, somehow, right? How they got there, and that's what comes through this season. It's a big what to do about nothing, because I just don't know. I don't know what happened to Eric Kripke. I don't know what changed between seasons 4 and 5, or whatever the case is, and yeah, and it's a shame, because there are aspects of the season that I did find at times funny. For me, one of the best scenes is seeing the Firecracker AMC commercial spoof, but again, it's just a spoof. Well, I can enjoy that. That doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, I think that the whole season was great. Yeah, sure. I enjoyed the spoof Firecracker did of the AMC commercial. Great. And it I guess it does tell me that like there is some comedic charm left from the writers, but at the end of the day, like as a whole, it doesn't come through to the point where I can, genuinely come on here and say, yeah, I think you should watch this season. I think you should sit down for all 8 hours. It's filler. 6 of these 8 episodes are just straight filler. I'm sorry. From episode 1 to episode 8, all filler. 80% of this is filler, and it's insane, because it's like, dude, like this is your final season. You could have done whatever you wanted. And I agree with what the online community said has been kind of tweeting about and talking about lately as well. I've seen a lot of tweets talking about, these are the posters that we've gotten for the show, right? We've gotten these posters of Homelander above Earth, and Earth is in a smoking rubble, and Karl Urban, Butcher, he's in front of the White House, and it all looked very epic. And I think I'm with the majority here, where it's like, no, I did expect this season to be epic, and it simply wasn't. As far as the Butcher issue goes, again, I didn't like his performance this season. I think his performance was really piss poor, he came off also as annoying and all just like a parody of the character. The only actor for me, honestly, this season that for me I was like, you know who hasn't lost their touch is Anthony Starr. By far, no question, 100% Anthony Starr this season truly kept to the character. You know, at no point did I think, oh my God, dude, like Anthony Starr just lost his touch, doesn't know how to play home. No, none of that. Anthony Starr plays Homelander beautifully. I will say though, while I understand how he went out and people have been making this meme now about his from you know his last couple lines in the show, I can appreciate the decision there as to like how he went out, but it's not quite the ending I really had for him. I personally view Homelander as a character that, like, even if he did lose his powers for one reason or another, I don't think he would have you know, changed to such an extent where he would be like, oh my God, like, that's not the Homelander that I would have written or that I kind of expected to see. I can appreciate it. Again, it's an alternative answer to the Homelander question, to the Homelander character, sure, but not what I would have preferred to see. Not, you know, it is what it is. He put his best foot forward. He did it well, and his acting really came through this whole season. Everyone else, you know, from the actress who plays Starlight, Huey, I think everyone, French, I think they all phoned it in. I'm sorry, like, I was not impressed with the acting I saw this season from anyone. Not even the guy who plays Soldier Boy. I'm blanking on his name as well. The gentleman from Supernatural. It wasn't interesting. You know, it wasn't compelling. Their acting wasn't compelling. Their writing wasn't compelling. And then the fact that you have a final season that, again, it's like they forgot that it was their last season of this show. It's clearly displayed, you know, where it's like, I don't understand why we're spending an episode. I don't even know what happens. I just watched this and I still, for the life of me, I cannot remember what happens between like episodes 3 to like 7. You know, I know there's the episode where like they go to like Seth Rogen's house. No, they go to like another speedster's house. That was the other guy from Supernatural. They go to his house and Seth Rogen is there, Aziz Ansari is there, and the guy from Superbad. It's a whole roster of comedians that are there. And it's like, okay, cool, but then they're murdering the comedians and stuff, and it's all this nonsense just to find out where the V1 is and all this bullshit. And it's just like, dude, like, I don't care. This season needed to be a ton of fighting between Homelander and the boys. You have a character who has all these capabilities, and yet somehow the boys still elude him. You know, he's continually. The boys continue to elude him at every turn. He never knows where they're going with this and that, and oh, now they're showing up here, and like and Butcher still retained powers. He's got his weird tentacle creature powers thing that's going on. That's never explained, by the way. Also another failing in the writing there, but it's never explained how Butcher keeps his tentacles or whatever. And it's like, okay, if you're telling me that Butcher has powers and this guy has powers and he's got the force of the US government behind him and Vought and whatever, shouldn't this have been just 7 episodes of them constantly going at Homelander's throat, you know, or like trying to do this? Instead, what they do is, oh, actually though, you know, and this is really where the writing gets me in this show, where it's, again, I find it abysmal and just lazy and uncreative. Oh, actually though, there's a previous older formula of the V serum that's called V1 that is immune to the soup killing virus disease thing that they conjure up to be like kind of their end game, you know, because Butcher still has this goal of killing all the soups on the planet. And the V1 is introduced as this kind of, device, this plot device, so that not only can they set up another show, I think it's Vault Rising or something, but then also it's another foil in the plan. And not that it couldn't have been interesting, but they did nothing with it. They spent a couple episodes tackling the V1 issue. We gotta go get V1. We gotta find the V1. Now we gotta find some other person who might know another person that might have the V1, and this, that, and the other. And then they go to an old fort, and the fort itself is like haunted, or makes people go mad. All this bullshit. Homelander gets the V1, and then nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. Like, nothing changes about Homelander. Like, he doesn't get he doesn't get a boost in power. He doesn't get extra powers. Like, at least do something interesting. At least make him get V1, and then make him, he gets injected with V1 and he becomes disfigured in some kind of way, or he grows an extra set of arms, or it makes him age more because he already has V, but now introducing more V into his system causes like a massive chain reaction to his anatomy, and it actually, he is more super powered, but now his body's old. Anything would have been more interesting than what we saw. And again, it just speaks to how, and excuse my French, how fucking lazy the writing for this season is, that you spent 5 episodes, 6 episodes dealing with a plot device that affected in no meaningful way the outcome of the show, of this series. In no way. He gets the V1, and in the next episode, it's like you might as well have not even watched the previous episode. It literally didn't matter. It didn't matter if he got the V1, and if he did, who cares? You go to episode 8, and it just starts off with like as if nothing had happened. And it's just like, okay, great, or maybe it's episode 6. I don't even know. Point is, like, he gets the V1 and nothing meaningful comes out of it, where you're like, wow, so what's gonna happen? Nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. And again, like, the least it could have done was been like, he gets the V1 and he's disfigured or something. Nothing came of it. And it's truly horrible. It's truly lazy writing. I want to talk quickly about the final fight too in the White House, and like the death of Butcher. Spoilers: the death of Butcher at the end of the show. The final fight with Homelander, I'm sorry, abysmal. Again, to use that word, I think that's the word of the review here, abysmal. It is absolutely batshit boring. Like, you have a guy with tentacles for arms or whatever. You have a Superman character who 3 seconds before took someone to space and came back in a matter of a second. And you're telling me that the final fight here happens in like the Oval Office, and he's just kind of flying this way, and he gets caught, this, that, and the other. And Ryan comes in, the son of Homelander, who's been gone for 5 episodes and has had no character development. Elements that they brought in, awful. The fight choreography and what they did, lazy, triple L lazy, dude. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough. It's like they just came into set one day and said, all right, we're just gonna have you guys do some dipping punches, blah, blah, blah. And that'll be dude, this is Amazon Prime's premiere show. Again, as I said at the beginning of this review, it is Amazon's premiere show. It is what launched Amazon Prime into the stratosphere of streaming, was because of this show and how impactful it was and how cool it was, to having it just be like, all right, we're gonna have him fly here, and then you catch him, and then you tackle him. Boring. Kimiko having the power to neutralize Soldier Boy's abilities with the blast, dumb. You spent an entire season bringing back Soldier Boy to be this kind of foil who's kind of indecisive about whether or not to help Homelander or bring him down. Soldier Boy has the same ability to neutralize any superhero's powers, right? Turns out that the power was given to him by like being inundated with like extreme radiation, right? Okay, cool. He's had it since like season 3 when he was introduced, right? So you would think, okay, well, if he's got this ability to neutralize other superheroes' abilities, why not try to, if you're going to include him anyways in the final season as a foil, why not try to have him come to like a realization like, okay, maybe I can't give my son Homelander the V1. He's going to turn to be more diabolical and more insane and more egotistical or whatever the case is, right? I have to neutralize him now. You know, because it could have been that. It could have been that they had another fight and Soldier Boy's like, no, you know what? Like, I'm sorry, you're not what you think you are. This is the only way for me to like stop you in your tracks. They don't do any of that. They don't do any of that. Homelander just chokes him out. I think episode 7, he chokes him out, never to be seen again. It's as if he wasn't even in the show. The last episode happens and there's no mention of Soldier Boy. No mention of where he went, nothing. Like, what did Homelander do with Soldier Boy? Bupkis. Who knows, right? So it's, again, another wasted opportunity. They gave Kimiko that ability by some forced, you know, contrived story point of also inundating her with radiation and this and the other, whatever. She's the one who, like, blasts Homelander with the superpower neutralizing blast, and that's how they're able to kill Homelander. End of Homelander. Honestly, stupid. Just, again, boring, uncreative, you know, not inspired. Like, they had the opportunity to do anything. More interesting ending could have been that he sought out the V1, he took it, but then the V1 actually turned out to have adverse effects on Homelander's body, and so he dies, but from his own undertaking of like, oh, I need to, like, he dies from his own bullshit, you know? None of that. Like, that would have made a more interesting story. Or he doesn't get the V1 and then they destroy it somehow, and then Homelander still has to like go through with his plan. Anything would have been way more interesting than what we got. They use that moment where Kimiko's about to blast him to like have a flashback to Frenchie, or she hallucinates Frenchie for a second because he died. I'm not even going to talk about the Frenchie death because I think that's also just really dumb. I'll get into it very quickly. The Frenchie death for me, also just uninspired and lazy writing. You know, you're telling me that after 5 years of this show going on, like, the only person to die from their adventures and nonsense or whatever is Frenchie. And that's because Homelander showed up to their home base. So Homelander knew where they were the whole time, and he knew that they were working on something. You know, they were working on radiating Kimiko, and he showed up and just killed Frenchie. Like, that's it. Like, he didn't go scorch earth. No, he just showed up and killed Frenchie, and then he dipped. He left Kimiko alive. He left Sage alive. Like, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And it, like, the Frenchie death also just felt contrived and just silly. It's like, you're gonna tell me that now you're gonna have a character die second to last episode, the penultimate episode, you're gonna have this character die, and none of the other main cast have ever been near death in any kind of significant way. Homelander gets radiated, they kill Homelander, he shoves a crowbar through his head, you know, and then that's that, you know. But then you still have Butcher, who all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, and so I say all of a sudden if only because I think the show forgot what his motivation truly was, and somehow remembered it in that last episode. I remember his motivation being, I want to kill all, not only do I want to kill Homelander, I want to eliminate superpowered people everywhere, was Butcher's motivation throughout since season 1, since the first episode, since we met him, it's, I not only do I want to kill Homelander, I want to kill all superheroes, right? The show completely forgot that messaging in this season. They were too busy turning him into some sort of like B villain Instead of just keeping him like an anti-hero, like they started turning him, or wanted to turn him into more like a villain character in some parts, and some others no, when they felt like it. And then at the end, it's like he remembers like, oh, actually, my mission was to actually eliminate all Supes, you know. And again, once again, this show that just didn't have the balls to do anything interesting or creative or inspired, what do? The second half of this episode is dedicated to killing Butcher. And not that you can't kill him or anything, but it's like, dude, like Butcher, what you're showing me is that Butcher had a head start into going into the Vought office building in New York with with a vial of the Supe killing virus. And instead of just going there and immediately releasing the virus and letting it fester, instead, he's there like, oh, I knew you would follow me. Oh, the traffic. Like, he knew that Huey was going to be there regardless, right? And then he doesn't do anything with the virus. Oh, you remind me of my brother, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, some bullshit. Huey kills Butcher. He shoots him in the abdomen. And that's that. But it's like, dude, you were already there. You had a whole head start into getting to the building with the virus. You could have just released it anytime you wanted to, and instead you're there waiting for Huey to show up to like off you and have this whole confrontation. Like, come on, man. Like, again, what they could have done instead was, hey, I made it here. I made it to the Vought building and I released it already. You're too late. I've already released the virus. It's already in the air. I'm dying as we speak, but with my death will come the death of all Supes. And sure, it would have killed Starlight. It would have devastated, it would have killed Kimiko. That would have been a more fitting ending for this show overall, because at the end of the day, this show has only shown us that Vought is a contemptuous organization, right? Vought is the overall villain. Vought, that's what we've been shown throughout this whole show, is that Vought didn't start off as like this, like, you know, agent for good in the world. No, it started because some guy was a huge white supremacist fanatic, you know, and wanted to create superpowered people for other purposes, right? So again, Vought is the villain here. The Vought Corporation in the show is the villain, and they do nothing to eliminate them. The show ends and Vought continues being the villainous organization that they've been since season 1. No arc, no full circle moment, nothing. Butcher's death is wasted. For me, again, this is a not seated. I would definitely not recommend anyone watch this season unless you want to like hate it too. Again, I have seen a lot of reviews online from people either through TikTok or Twitter or, you know, YouTube. Some people are saying positive things about it, which I seemingly just don't understand, because I don't know if we watch the same show. I really just don't know if we watched the same show or not, because I watched this season and I was very highly disappointed. I just can't recommend this in any good faith. Some other notes I'll add here too, as far as this final season goes, that I didn't get to mention really. The Gen V characters, utterly wasted. The Gen V characters that they brought in here are completely wasted. Twice they bring in Gen V characters just for them to be told to shoo, we don't need you, or we can't afford you. One of the two, right? Oh, we want to help. We want to help you beat Homelander. We want to help you in your mission to beat Homelander. And the Gen V characters twice in this season 5 are told to shoo, we don't need you. Or rather, we cannot afford to pay you and cannot afford to spend money on your special effects, or you would just ruin the plot because of your power set. And it's so silly. It's like, dude, this whole season, this whole universe, you built up Gen V, but you're including characters, but then you don't want them included anyway. So, but then you're still showing them in this season. It's like, what are we doing? What are we actually doing? Do you want the Gen V characters here? Do you not want them here? Like, what is their purpose? Twice you've shown me them, and twice you've just had Starlight shoo them away. for one reason or another. The larger point I wanted to discuss, I'll probably do another video on this separately, probably as part of a discussion series I want to start of just, you know, things happening in Hollywood and streaming and TV and movies and stuff like that, just general movie news and whatnot. A more broader issue I have is this 8-episode season that all these streaming services are now like forcing us to get accustomed to. Why? Why are we, first off, why are we waiting longer to get 8 episodes of a show when we used to have a year-long wait, if not less, and we got 24 episodes, 22 episode seasons of network TV, you know, and high caliber TV, might I add. You know, we used to have 10 episodes at the very least, and now everything is all of a sudden 8 episodes. Daredevil is 8 episodes. This show, The Boys, is 8 episodes. Like, why are we getting gypped? Because I bet you, if anything, this season 5 probably cost as much money as any other season, and yet we've gotten less show than I think we've ever gotten from The Boys. Forget about other shows. I think we've gotten less stuff, less material to see and watch in these episodes than we've ever had before. I sincerely do not understand where the budget for this show, because presumably the show most likely has a massive budget. I'll probably put a thing here on my video with the budget spent for the season, but presumably they had a huge budget, and it doesn't come off that this show was that expensive. It comes off like a cheap, mediocre, you know, show. It's really embarrassing. And again, I feel like we're being gypped every time I see a network or a streaming service come out and do an 8-episode run for a season. Did your story only necessitate 8 episodes? Did you only like develop a script that needed 8 episodes? Like, why 8? Why not 9? You know, did you have enough for 9 episodes and just decided to cut down an episode? Then you're giving the show a $300 million budget for 8 episodes. So each episode costs what, north of $80 million per episode to do. And the episodes we're getting is Kimiko doing dick jokes and, you know, whatever else we saw, like Homelander sitting in a tub of milk of titty milk. Like, I just don't understand why we are consistently getting gypped. You know, these streaming networks have brought in bring in millions of dollars a month. Forget about a year, a month from ad revenue and streaming subscription revenue. And yet the content they're delivering to us on these platforms every year gets worse and marginally worse and worse and worse, and shorter seasons and marginally worse, and sillier set pieces and more AI. And it's like, I don't understand what's happening here. I don't know why this affected The Boys so much, or who intervened there, especially with The Boys. But this was truly one of the worst series finales I've watched, probably one of the worst. And I've seen a lot of comparison to like was this worse than the Game of Thrones season finale? And I'll tell you very honestly, it is. I think you are insane if you're gonna sit here and tell me that the season finale of Game of Thrones is worse than what we got in The Boys season 5. That is insane. The season finale of Game of Thrones had a dragon flying overhead. You have a dragon, you know, burning down an entire kingdom. You had VFX shots of Daenerys walking down a set of stairs with dragon wings behind her. Yes, story-wise, was it poor? Was it not to what we expected the ending to be? And did it leave us wanting the ending of Game of Thrones? Sure. Is that series finale as bad as what we got for The Boys? On not even remotely. And if you think that, I encourage you to leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you think, but I'm gonna be straight up with you. I think you need to reevaluate that position. This season is absolutely abysmal, atrocious, horrendous, lazy, incompetent, and just overall uncreative and uninspired. Do not recommend you watch this season. If you are a fan of the show, watch them until season 4, then just skip to the last episode of this season, watch it and call it a day. Watch the recap that happens before in the last episode of season 5. And that's all you need to know. That's all you need to see. Like, I just really cannot recommend anyone sit for 8 hours of this season to just catch up on what's happening when nothing happens. Nothing interesting happens. Nothing of value happens. All you need to know is that the villain dies and the other guy dies too. And there's your show. Thanks for tuning in. Again, this is the Now Seated Podcast. I'm Christian. Typically, these reviews will star myself and my girlfriend, but again, she did not watch the show with me, or this season at least, and she's not really a huge fan either. So we felt it best for me to just do this one on my own. But typically, our reviews will be both of us together talking about whatever we watched. We are planning on doing a Possession review next. So tune in for that. Again, please, I encourage you. I want to have a discussion for the season finale, or the series finale for The Boys. Leave your comments down below, like, subscribe. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. Now Seated.